Hey guys, I know I didn't get to review any of the Arrowverse shows last week. I'm just gonna do just one giant composite review because one, like I mentioned in the past, YouTube's been blocking my reaction videos to most of the shows I watch. I tried to upload a reaction video to The Gifted for episode 3 the other night. I was not able to, so I'm just gonna also do a review of um episodes 3 and 4 tonight and later this week, or I guess whatever. Hopefully, just soon. Hopefully, the former rather than the latter. So I'm just gonna put timestamps in the description box down below, so you can jump around and. If there's certain shows you just want to hear about, or in a particular order, I'm just going to review them in the order that they aired. And I think I'm just going to start off with Supergirl, then Flash, then Legends, and then Arrow last. So with Supergirl, this is episode 2 of season 3. Triggers. Supergirl is forced to deal with a telepath who's able to use her abilities to brings people's greatest fear and hallucinations to life, and she goes on a string of robberies throughout previous cities, and now she's come to National City. She's nicknamed by the authorities as Psy, and of course her abilities are so powerful they're able to affect Supergirl with her greatest fears, and also is powerful enough that not even John can she overpowers John Jones remotely, because they just need to nerf the Martian Manhunter for the sake of the plot. But the thing is that they keep having Kara keeps having visions of Krypton, especially visions of Alora, who's now being played by Erica Durance, who actually does a really great performance and comes across as very different from the roles Lois Lane in Smallville. And you get to see this really cool point of view shot of Kara being when she first gets launched away from Krypton. You see how the ship shaking and how the explosions explode around here being out in space, and then her point of view of Clark's pod taking off past hers, and then it starts to go off course. And so at first you you enjoy the idea of, okay, it's not just about her mourning Mon-El. It just has to. I just like how it's not going to just focus on that. It just focuses on how she has abandonment issues because of losing almost everyone she's known from her home world, and losing Mon-El, and just compounded that. And so I just figured that that's her. And also because of the fact that it seems like it seems like she's sort of haven't really gotten over the Mon-El stuff, just because they had this whole opening shot where I guess basically her getting ready in the morning and waking up by herself in her apartment without everybody to make her food or wake up next to, was juxtaposed with Maggie and Alex, waking up next to each other and getting ready for work and all that stuff. And I thought there was maybe a third. Oh, and it was just juxtaposed with Samantha Arias and Ruby getting ready in the morning. But I guess the thing that was a little bit disappointing is just that when she keeps getting hit with psychic attacks and telekinetic energy that sends Supergirl across the city. And then finally, when she discloses to Winn what's going on, but she doesn't want to tell Alex or John or anybody because they're going to worry. But of course, Alex gives Winn her infamous stare down that she starts spilling the beans, and goes to talk to Supergirl about it twice. Their second conversation, where she reveals that she thinks that Mon-El died somewhere out in outer space. And that's her greatest fear, because she hasn't heard from him in the 6 months. When Alex tries to reassure her that Mon-El's fine, just based on instincts, and that basically what she did getting him to safety was no different than what Alora did for Kara when getting her on Krypton. or maybe it's the same intentions, which was a little bit disappointing. How it's like we're going back to the Mon-El thing. I mean, if they're trying to do if they're trying to do a parallel or at least like connect the the Mon-El being sent away to Kara being sent away and her abandonment issues as like one kind of giant like emotional dilemma she's going through. If that's what we're trying to go for, great. I just didn't know if I particularly like the execution of it, but it's what overcoming her fear is what allows Kara to overpower the or become immune to like Sai's abilities and just like knock her out with a headbutt. And I guess there's like there's not this. I mean, I guess there's just this like little subplot about. There's not much about Alex and Maggie trying to get ready for the wedding, and Alex bringing up having kids, and Maggie saying she doesn't really see herself as a mom, which kind of makes me wonder. I mean, it kind of makes me a little pessimistic about how they're actually going to break up Sandverse. I mean, the writers kept saying is they're going to go out, they're going to have pay respect to the relationship, and it'll go out on a high note or something or some stuff like that. But now it just feels like okay, it's just gonna be like Olicity where they broke them up just because of the whole issue with kids. All of a sudden, I'm not really crazy about that, and there have also been rumors about how Alex is going to be a major character in all four parts of the crossover, and how she's supposed to hook up with Sarah. So it's going to be kind of disappointing that that relationship is going to come to an end, considering how universally loved that is. Assuming they're not assuming viewers aren't homophobes. But of course, the plot with Samantha and Ruby is that Ruby gets into a fight at school. It's also because some kid called her a liar and saying that her mom has superpowers, and she says that has to be the only reason why her mom was able to strong enough to lift off that debris to rescue her during the last episode. So you realize that the kid's pretty smart and pretty savvy and able to like catch on to that stuff. Or she just wishes her mom had superpowers, and Samantha tries to keep brushing it off as just adrenaline, but it gets to the point where now like Ruby, I mean it's stupid, but it's also not surprised where she actually goes out to where Sai's like attacking people, and a guy operating like a wrecking ball nearly drops it on top of her, like, because Ruby sends out a text to her mom like come save me. And she gets there, and both of them nearly get crushed by the wrecking ball until Supergirl intervenes, and then Ruby reveals that she wishes her mom was a superhero, and because she feels like she would spend less time at work and more time with her. You don't really know what the nature of her Samantha's job is, and up until you realize that she's taking over for Lena Luthor at Luthor Corp and running the day-to-day operations, while Lena's going to be working at Catco, and it creates like an interesting dynamic with Jimmy, in which like he feels like his toes are getting stepped. He feels he's getting pushed to the side. His toes are getting stepped on, because it causes some tension about like who's in charge, like how much power one has over the other, and how it's a little bit of like a rivalry, like power struggle thing, and then it also creates a dynamic in which Lena gets a little suspicious about why Kara keeps running off, even though we just know that's do her heroics, but because I mean she can't. Apparently, she's not going to be able to get away with it the same way that she did with Cat Grab, because she started to catch on that Kara and Supergirl are one and the same. Because she's the only one that seems to be savvy to secret identities in this franchise. Lena Luthor doesn't seem to realize that, and now she gets suspicious. And when there's big tension between Kara and Lena about her absences, Kara just finally says that, okay, there is stuff going on with me. I'm still trying to get over Mon-El, and they make up at the end, but you kind of wonder like how much longer she can go on with the whole like Mon-El excuse, at least at work with Lena, if she's gonna be like less tolerant of her absences. And like how much she's gonna and how much is gonna hurt, Lena, and she feels like, Kara's vilifying her, and the producers hinted that Lena may become evil this season, so I might wonder if that's a trigger for the friendship going to crap, and then, but, I don't know, like, time will tell. It was definitely a lot, like I said, my last video I said that the premiere was very boring and forgettable. This one is a completely step up, and it feels like you have a stronger sense of where the season's going, and or at least like has a much stronger sense of direction and like what's going on, and I feel more confident about the season after this. Now, The Flash, season 4, episode 2. This one's called Mixed Signals. And just based on the fan outcry and backlash I've seen all week, just on Facebook and Instagram, and even a little bit of Twitter, this has probably got to be this most controversial episode to date, to the point where there's a couple of moments with Iris that seem to completely overshadow everything about this episode, which I'll get into a little bit. The premise is the villain of the week is named Kilgore, who is a technopath, who's able to manipulate electronics and technology, and basically going after these 3 people who basically stole an app that he developed, and he was left with nothing, and they took all the credit for it and made all the money off of it. And I guess it's like, it kind of people, I mean, I've read a few reviews, I watched a few reviews on YouTube saying how much, like, they thought, like, there was too much humor in The Flash and how it, like, undercut the stakes. But it's like, when you have, like, 3 of the people on his on the guy's hit list being, like, unrepentant rich millionaires who are billionaires who are just, like, who shamelessly did this to the guy. One of them, the woman was like telling him off, knowing even after she was warned that Kilgore was coming to kill her, and you just feels like, okay, I get you want to take a shot at the 1%, but it's like it kind of undercuts the stakes. It's like, okay, we're supposed to be jerks, then should we really feel that bad if they die then? And then another thing is that they have these like really funny scenes where, and basically you have like Barry just coming back into Star Labs and not realizing how the dynamics have changed, and with Iris being in charge, like him coming in and sort of like taking over, with him like taking over stuff for like wedding prep, to canceling training at Star Labs, and also just to even this like running out to save one of the victims and going down a street or like directing the car down a street, saying that, oh, you can't go down that way. There's construction under there for several months, so Barry has to run and go get a wrench and like disassemble the entire car, just so there's nothing with the seat left, and so the guy's car like comes to like a screeching halt, or is like the chair is like used to like the friction of the chair like on the street is able to slow him down before it comes crashing into a wall. And then at Caitlin's suggestion, Iris and Barry go to couples therapy, which is actually, the first scene is actually like really funny, with them like going on about how basically just nonchalantly kind of like listing off, all the people that they knew that died. And I just thought it was like kind of pretty, it was like a pretty funny scene. Like, you guys have seen it. I probably, like I said, I can't post it because of copyrights, but it's the second scene where, they come back for this second session, and Barry's saying, we're Barry and Iris, we're the gold standards. And Iris just goes, then how can you leave me all alone? You just left me standing there. How could you leave me? And that's the thing that kind of just, I think this one people just went completely apeshit about. And it was just like, okay, it was just like, okay, you acknowledged in the episode that last episode Barry had to go into the Speed Force, and you didn't want to get him out because you didn't want to risk the city, and let alone get your hopes up that he'll ever come. They probably won't be able to get him back, even if they tried to, or he wouldn't come back the same. And I mean, I get that Iris has abandonment issues just because of like all the people that have they mentioned in the earlier episode in the other session that died, especially Eddie and her mom. But it's like it just the dialogue in and of itself. It's like instead of saying like "How could you leave me," it should have been said something like "You don't know how hard. How can you leave me? I mean, I or at least something like you do you understand like how hard this was for you to just leave and how and, like everything that had to how I had to carry on and deal with heartbreak, not knowing I was never going to see you again, like or just like some kind of like repeat of this little lines that she said to Barry when um when she was in that like kind of like crazed dementia like state in the premiere, but it's like she couldn't. I guess they can only say so much in front of the therapist without telling about their what really goes on in their lives. And Barry couldn't say anything. And there's also another scene between Barry and Iris where Barry says the whole weight of the world falls on my shoulders, and it says like you don't have to. It was basically saying that, and she said something like where she said you don't have to bear the when you put this ring on my finger, it didn't just become about you, it became about you and me. Like, you're not the Flash, Barry, we are. Which is the line that basically pissed off people even more to the point where even, like, Candace Patton's, like, getting backlash, and there have been memes overnight, like, making, for... to the point where it's just, like, if I had $1, like, I'm seeing just as many memes about this as... And it's probably going to go on for a while at this rate. They're just about as many memes about this as they were about Barry screwing up the timeline. Some people say they've done it for a joke. Some people I just know it's like honestly malicious. But I just feel like instead of saying "We are the Flash," she should have been called back to her season 3 line, to Barry's season 3 line of saying there is no Flash without Iris West. That's something that she's based. That's something that Barry has been telling her and along those lines for like the last 3 seasons. So I just feel like it's like kind of unfair to. I mean, is it bad dialogue in and of itself that make her sound controlling? Yes, but it doesn't change the fact that there has to be like a double standard of like when Barry says it, it's fine. Then when Iris says it, then or tries to say it that way, that she gets this kind of backlash where she doesn't get taken seriously. She's selfish. She's like a superhero wannabe. It's like she's not literally putting on the costume. She's just saying that. We got to communicate. You don't have to bear the burden alone. We're going to be a married couple. We have to make decisions together. We're going to have to lean on each other, etc., etc. And that's the sad thing about this over about this whole episode. That's kind of overshadowed like whatever good stuff that whatever happened. So it overshadowed like the whole drama between Cisco and Gypsy, where they mentioned how on her Earth it was like one day, where it's like one, it was like one day, one soul, one day, one soul. I guess like 2 people together are like one soul, and it's like I feel like the parallels kind of went over people's heads. And that's what they're trying to do with Barry and Iris with the whole "We Are the Flash" thing, but I guess they didn't. But I kind of like, how Cisco and Gypsy are officially a couple, and he realizes how much Cisco addresses that he's been neglecting her for work, and they have this like nice dinner, and they get dressed up and fancy. Not much with Caitlin. Caitlin's basically just playing matchmaker for both and giving them both couples like advice for the episode, and not really telling them about her Killer Frost stuff. She almost turns and Wally just felt like he just got kind of like it didn't really get much to do, like except like save of Kilgore's victim from insulin shock, and then he went out to the field with Barry, but then he got hit with one of Barry's pulse cannons, which just felt like okay, you're not Iron Man. Like this is like it's one of the new tech that Cisco put in Barry's suit that Kilgore exploits, and it seems to go haywire from losing control of his visor, to the pulse cannon, to him becoming inflatable, which is supposed to be a reference to Fat Flash in a comic book that came back in the 60s where somebody made him fat to slow him down. And he has to make a collect call to tell people what's going on. And then Iris suggests that he throws lightning at himself to short out the suit because he put a Babel protocol, which is a self-destruct mechanism, not to Justice League Tower Babel, to basically prevent him from blowing up, which Cisco insists he put in because of their experience with Savitar. So Iris saves Barry's life. Barry's able to save one of Kilgore's victims and subdue him, and they finally just get. I mean, it has like this nice like happy ending, but it's just like I just feel like the people just shitting on Iris or shitting on Iris or blaming giving Candace Patton a lot of crap. Go fuck yourselves, because the actors act and the writers write. It's just become frustrating that it's how much like the writers have been demeaning this character like as the season's going along, to the point where I had hope from the season 4 premiere to now worried about how season 4 is going to go just based on this alone, because I felt like the whole Iris dying and Savitar thing was completely sexist and just damn near one of the major reasons that killed season 3 for me. And now it just feels like, okay, since the CW doesn't have a good sense to fire him, there's a part of me that kind of wishes Candace Patton was killed off, not because her character sucks, but because maybe she could have had a chance of booking another show on like Star Trek Discovery, Walking Dead, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., just any other show where they're far more woke about people of color and gender being on the same footing. This show does not care about it, and it's like, all the writers do is give cannon fodder to the haters, and I feel like the fandom has become more toxic, and this just becomes so much like negativity, just going back, and there's so much like negativity just like being like spilled into this show on both sides, I feel like. And it's not a bad episode, but it's just like, I don't know, maybe I'll give it like a 6.5 or 7, but it's just, I don't know. Now, with Legends of Tomorrow, Episode 3, Season 2 Freak Show, they decide the team once again, the good side in the Time Bureau, so they go back to Wisconsin of 1870 during P.T. Barnum's circus, his early days, and try and find out that the acronym is there's a saber-toothed tiger. Now, Ray's like reverse engineered a shrink ray that it's like a glove they can put on his arm and shrink acronyms, and so they try to shrink it down to size and bring it back to the Wave Rider. But the thing is that Nate stupidly opens the cage before Ray's ready, and so he sneezes, and so he accidentally enlarges the saber-tooth tiger more, and it goes on a rampage. And so when Nate goes to drown his sorrows, he starts telling P.T. Barnum, who's down in the dumps because like his main attraction's gone, they had to close down the show, about about the legends and their different abilities, and so it leads to Ray and Jax getting captured and by P.T. Barnum and his crew, and them threatening, and just basically being threatened into being part of a show. And Sarah decides that they go back to 1942 to pick up Amaya and convince her to help out with the mission of retrieving the Sabretooth, which they do, and they shrink it down to size and put it in a little cage. Then, of course, Mick, also like an idiot, decides to, instead of slipping the Sabretooth tiger some meat, he also opens up the mini cage, which lets that run around. They're being followed by the Time Bureau, or at least a guy named Gary, which Sarah tries to force at gunpoint to tell Agent Sharp everything's fine, but she's knows better, and she shows up on the Wave Rider to fight Sarah, while Stein goes to rescue the others, because Nate and Amaya also get captured by P.T. Barnum as well. And And well, I guess Mick goes along. And there's this funny scene where he actually does like tackle a clown because he does have like a fear of clowns. And there's like I guess it's like in true odd fashion of Legends, like Sarah and Agent Sharp get into a fight, and it gets to the point where it's like they get so tired out to they end up going to a draw and about to get a drink of water, and Sharp lets it slip out that I don't know why Rip ever thought you would be powerful enough to take out, and before she finishes the sentence, and Sarah tries to get her to elaborate, she doesn't. But basically, it leads to and but and then Amaya, you find out she left Nate abruptly on his birthday just because he thought, oh, if she left abruptly, without an explanation, that Nate would hate her and it would be easy for her and it would be easy for him to get over her because she saw Mari, her granddaughter, on TV and went to Detroit and saw her, saving several lives and decided she had to go back to 1942 to make sure Mari wasn't erased from existence. And Nate can't steal up because he's dehydrated from all the drinking, but they're able to escape, and Firestorm's able to help knock everybody out. Mix knocks out the clown, and they're eventually able to eventually just fix the anachronism. I mean, like I said, it was just. I mean, I know the Legends are clumsy, but it just feel like there's a little bit of plot induced when it comes to fixing time. I feel like there's a little bit of plot induced stupidity here. A major thing seems to be that I think a major thing here just seems to be that it turns out Mari, like her totem's grown in power and she lost control of the animal spirits within it. That's why she killed those poachers in the last episode, why she nearly killed P.T. Barnum. Who played by Billy Zane, who by the way gave like a really great performance as like kind of like he was smarmy, but he also was able to be charming at the same charismatic at the same time. A lot more than his roles in like say even more so than say like Back to the Future Part 2 or Titanic, or in Back to the Future Part 1. And they said that how the Time Bureau said this is probably the greatest threat that they're ever going to face based on what Agent Sharp and Rip were hiding from them. And there's a scene where they burst out laughing where it's like, well, how much worse can it be? And then they have one of Malice's followers able to resurrect Kawasa, the villain from the CW Vixen series, and also Mari's sister, saying that they have work to do. And so you're just wondering if this is going to be a thing where, how long is it going to figure out before we see Malice on screen, or his followers going to like be resurrecting different villains like one by one, like Damien Dark, and just wait to see what happens. But otherwise, I say it's like another I say it was another great episode, and it seems to be like this show seems to be starting out great on solid footing. So for season 6, episode 2 of Arrow Tribute, it continues from where last week's episode left off, where a photo of Oliver Queen as the Green Arrow was released to the public, and it caused some continuity errors, considering, or at least on the Flash anyway, because there was Easter egg for this episode where Iris and Barry were looking at a newspaper that says Mira Queen is the Green Arrow, and it just seems like this is the only show where they acknowledge that even in this episode it still takes place 5 months after the Lian Yu explosion. All the other shows take place 6 months after their season finales, which I feel like that's just kind of late. I mean, I feel like that shouldn't be a big deal, but it just feels like it's kind of lazy that they couldn't just set all the shows like 6 months later just to keep everything in real time and like avoid this. It just seems like devil's in the details as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, Oliver shows up at the press conference saying like photos can be doctored. They could have put Bruce Wayne's head on that body. Did Bruce Wayne leave Gotham? Who's going to leave Gotham and hang out in Star City? No. I don't know how they name dropped it, but I'm on board with they got the finally name drop Bruce Wayne. I acknowledge that Batman's on Earth 1, and cool. And they also have this FBI agent, Agent Watson, who's investigating Oliver Queen, and they confront Wild Dog and Oliver and Quentin about how, you know, and they try to tell her it's like, oh, he was cleared a few years ago for being a vigilante, and she says no, for being the Hood, not for being the Green Arrow. So that gives her precedence to continue her investigation, gather more dirt on him to put Oliver away. I guess because he was killing, maybe because he was playing judge and jury briefly at the beginning of season 5, or he wasn't actually cleared of any wrongdoings when Prometheus was outed as a serial killer, or at least when Adrian Trace was outed as Prometheus. And speaking of which, they said because the envelope they got of the photo that was sent internally within the news station that broadcast that, they just started to suspect if maybe Prometheus was the one who sent it out as part of one of his backup plans in case anything happened to him, as also a final middle finger to Oliver. But then, of course, there's this Markovian, I guess, businessmen who are just trying to open up a factory in Star City, and then they get kidnapped by Anatoly Kanayev, who he and his crew gets stuck around in Star City because they got booted from the Bratva because of his friendship with Oliver, and they said they made him weak, so he decides to take the Markovians hostage and extort $20 million from him, which is money that's supposed to be used to repair the SCPD. It's like insurance money for the SCPD after it got blown up by Black Siren. And and I guess there was to add insult to injury, they've been at least one of them was infected with some kind of virus or disease that Oliver tries to administer the cure to one of the hostages, but then Anatoly just shoots him, and Oliver's about ready to put a bow in him, but Anatoly says he's an honorable man, that he kept it between the two of them, instead of going after his son or any of his loved ones. So, which I guess for that some reason Oliver decides to let him go, and Felicity and Kurt's able to find out that the irony is that even though we all know it's true, that the photograph that was released was doctored, but it was not going to prevent Agent Watson from giving up on the investigation. And you also have the fact that the real drama comes between Diggle and Dinah, because of the fact that Diggle reveals that there was some it wasn't just PTSD for why his right arm keeps shaking and his aim sucks. It's because he has nerve damage from shrapnel from the Lian Yu explosion, and now it caused nerve damage, and he won't tell anybody about it. But Dinah's getting fed up with the fact that he's hiding it, especially considering the fact that she almost got choked to death when they were trying to look by one of the Anatoly's men when they were trying to look for the hostages. And the episode ends with a kind of an interesting twist, which is because Oliver's son got beat up in school for being the Green Arrow, and his son's says he's already lost one parent. He's worried about people constantly trying to kill Oliver. He's ever gonna when's the day gonna come where it finally happens and he loses another parent, which is why Oliver decides to step down as the Green Arrow and have John take over and take up the mantle, which kind of seems like a little hypocritical to an extent, but considering it's like, John's able to balance, having having a kid and having a family of his own, and when Ray's is helping Ray. I know Oliver's a single parent, but he has Ray's helping to raise William, and they mentioned that worst case scenario that he can go live with Samantha's parents. But yeah, that's kind of cruel, and he shouldn't have to have both parents dead. But I don't know. My feelings are kind of mixed because he's asking Diggle to make like like he's almost like Oliver's not willing to. Diggle's able to make that balance, so you kind of wonder what Oliver's deal is, that he can't do the same. Like, he's lived this life for this long, and maybe it's just fear. It may last one episode, but then I read somewhere that it's supposed to. I guess this whole arc of Diggle as the Green Arrow is supposed to last for like a few episodes up until the crossover. So I kind of have mixed feelings about this whole plot line. But it'll be interesting to see where it goes. But it's like, how effective is Diggle going to be if he doesn't address with the nerve damage affecting his aim? But what do you guys think of this? What do you guys think about it? What do you think of the episodes overall? How did you feel about all the episodes? Is there anything you want to talk about or that I didn't bring up? Leave your thoughts in the comments down below. If you like this video, like, share, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys.